Happy Friday and welcome to the Freedom from the Press podcast. My name is Jason Robertson and I'm here with my partner in crime,
Todd Peterson. Good to have you with us today, folks. We have a great show riffing right off a movie title from the 1980s, but we are living in Hollywood now these days, it seems like.
Yeah, hey Todd, Escape from New York. Did you ever see that movie?
Kurt Russell, classic, folks. If you saw the banner here, he aged a little bit in our promo video, but back in the day, Kurt Russell was the man, and who knew that when they made that movie in the 1980s that we would actually have that as our reality now?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So today we're going to be going deep dive. We're going to be talking about the government in New York, Letitia James trying to seize President Trump's assets, the fallout, and here's the big takeaway. People are waking up across America. Those of us that are on the conservative right, we knew the Republican Party was trash. And Donald Trump came down the escalator and he told us. And he opened our eyes to fake news and how the establishment is screwing over everyday Americans. And we need our friends on the left to wake up, the Democrats, because they're getting screwed just as bad by their political elites. They just don't realize it yet. And this Trump judgment in New York City, I'm going to say of all the cases, all the targeting they've done against President Trump, this is the single most egregious crime that they've committed. And the reason is this is just going after a businessman who ran a great business for the city of New York. Trump Tower, he employed 20, 30,000 people. Everybody that works for him talks about it being good paying jobs. They love working there. And now this is just political targeting, and we're going to kind of lay that out. But other businessmen are looking and they're going, why the hell am I going to go into New York City? And that's why it's time.
And why would you? Yeah, Jason, you said it's targeting. If he hadn't run for president, though, folks, this is what you have to understand. Trump didn't do anything wrong. Ignore what the judge said. But even if he did, they would have looked the other way, because do you think every other business is on the up and up in New York, and you don't think Wall Street and Washington, D.C. don't have their corrupt back and forth? The only reason this happened is because Donald Trump is running for president in 2024. If he had gone away, Jason, and he said, 2016, 2020, I had some good runs, now it's time for someone else, do you think they'd be going after him still?
Oh, heck no.
No. So, folks, get it through your head. Share this with your Democrat voting friends if they're still suffering from TDS. The only reason this is happening is because Trump is the leading candidate for 2024. It has nothing to do whatsoever with his business operations.
And I'm just going to say it too, folks. Buckle up and get ready. Things are going to take the craziest you thought this political stuff could be. Between now and November, it's going to exceed your expectations.
We have 8 months to go. This is just warming up.
Right. And that's why we love the fact that you guys tune in to the Freedom from the Press podcast. Like, comment, and share on this content. It's important that normal people get word out. And I don't know if you guys have seen, mass media is collapsing and people are sick of being fed propaganda, and multiple newspapers, declining viewership on TV shows. People are looking for alternatives, and we're trying to offer that to you, where we want to tell you the story the media is not going to cover. That's why we call ourselves Freedom from the Press.
And Jason, I have an ask of our audience right here. I see our viewers numbers are ticking up a little bit, but folks, if you're watching live right now, do us a huge favor, hit that share button, and let's get this out to as many people on Facebook, because right now we're watching the algorithm. Facebook does not like this podcast because we don't toe any party line, for that matter. We call out everybody.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that. So on our dashboard, we can see like how many people are watching, and we have million follower Facebook pages, and Facebook sent it to like 100. It's crazy.
And we're streaming on 3 of those pages, Jason.
Right. Yeah. 3 pages with 1 million followers, and Facebook will suppress it.
We know.
But you know what, folks, we're not going to let them, because we're not going to let this totalitarian regime win. And Facebook is in bed with the government, just like many social media platforms are. But Todd, we need to get into this story. Should we start at the beginning with Letitia James?
Okay, folks, we have a video here. Give me a second as we change our graphics up. Letitia James, when she ran for lieutenant governor of New York, she promised from day one to go after Donald Trump. Like I said before, if you think this is because of his business operations or because of anything else, Don't take my word for it. Take Letitia James's word for it. She said, I'm going to go after Donald Trump because already back then, this was during his presidency, they suffered from massive TDS, massive cope. They couldn't handle the fact that the establishment was getting exposed. She knew nothing about his businesses, but she knew that she didn't like Donald Trump, and she was going to go after him because she was in New York and his businesses were in New York.
Let's hear what Letitia has to say. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Give us a second.
Hello, my name is Letitia James, and I'm running for Attorney General for the great state of New York. Now, more than ever, New Yorkers need an Attorney General who has the experience, the skills, and the passion to uphold our laws and defend our most basic rights. I have a real record of getting things done. As a former public defender, I fought for people who didn't have the resources to afford representation, but that didn't mean they should be afforded any less justice. As an assistant attorney general, I fought to protect our civil rights and to take on anyone who would abuse them or attempt to defraud consumers. And as a city council member, I helped uncover one of the biggest corruption scandals in New York City and pass laws to improve the lives of New Yorkers. And as the current New York City public advocate, my office has addressed over 32,000 constituent complaints, individuals who walk through our doors without fancy lawyers or high-paid lobbyists. We have taken on bad landlords and the gun industry and passed a groundbreaking law to end gender wage discrimination. As the New York State Attorney General, I promise that I will use the powers of the law to move us forward and fight back against forces who try to move us backwards. I will take on President Donald Trump and anyone who tries to deny New Yorkers their most basic rights, whether it's corrupt politicians, unscrupulous landlords, inhumane immigration policies, or Wall Street abuses.
Okay, I know we want to focus on the Trump thing, but folks, if you were listening to that, there's so much more besides Donald Trump. But there she is. She's promising to go after corrupt politicians. She doesn't name anybody else. She could have picked a name out of a hat. Boom, that politician's corrupt. But she singles out Donald Trump immediately. And guess what? The voters of New York, because they all suffer from TDS too, and they think Dems are the only solution in New York, decided that she was the person most fit for the job.
Well, and let's think about what she's talking about. Unfair immigration laws. I'm sorry, you're a DA in New York. You have nothing to do with immigration laws. If you want to do that, run for Congress. You know, talking about clamping down on unscrupulous landlords and those sorts of things. Look at the crime in New York City. Look at all the people they're not charging. You see the videos all the time. Crime is running rampant in New York City. And here she is on her kick. And if you notice, do we have the interview too, Todd, or the video?
Oh, we have the interview coming up next. Yep.
Yeah. So here's her politically correct response, where she makes it clear she's going after President Trump in her commercial. People sign on. But what did she say on the streets when she was actually running for office?
Yeah, quite different. And before we lose this video, Jason, I just want to point out with the Second Amendment, she hates that there's the Second Amendment in the Constitution. The Supreme Court overturned New York's concealed carry law. So right away, she lost on that. And then New York City, sanctuary city, New York State, handing out freebies to Eric Adams has the numbers there, hundreds of millions of dollars going out to these people. It's going to get up to billions soon. Now she says she wants to do something about illegal immigration when she's campaigning. This is absolutely insane here. But let's get to her other form of speaking.
Now to the ABC News exclusive tonight after Donald Trump was fined nearly $355 million in his civil fraud case. Tonight, New York State's Attorney General Letitia James saying she's prepared to seize Donald Trump's assets, including his buildings, if he doesn't pay the money. ABC's Aaron Katursky one-on-one tonight with the Attorney General.
4 days after a judge ordered Donald Trump to pay $355 million for a decade of fraud, New York Attorney General Letitia James says she's prepared to do everything she can to make sure the former president pays his fine, including, she told us, seizing the buildings that bear his name.
If he does not have funds to pay off the judgment, then we will seek judgment enforcement mechanisms in court. And we will ask the judge
to seize his assets.
Trump was held liable for exaggerating his wealth and inflating the value of his real estate so banks would give him low-interest
folks,
loans.
watch her
Trump
non-answer on
insisted
this
the
next
banks
question,
liked
too.
doing business with him.
They said no victim, no one got harmed, the banks got paid back. So no harm, no foul. Why is that not the case in your view?
So financial frauds are not victimless crimes. He engaged in this massive amount of fraud, and it wasn't just a simple mistake, a slight oversight. The variations were wildly exaggerated, and the extent of the fraud was staggering.
Trump said the penalty.
Notice she sounds quite different too. I couldn't help but notice that she had this, projected voice in the first video, very confident. And now they always sound like this, that raspy, almost whisper. Like I got wisps of Joe Biden in that interview as well. I don't know why they have to talk that way.
Yeah, she needs to do the creepy Joe Biden voice.
Lean in a little bit and say, we're going to seize his assets.
Now, and let's frame this up. So she's running for office. She says she's going to protect the city of New York, rah, rah, rah. For those who don't know, the 60-second breakdown of this lawsuit is Donald Trump overstated what his assets were worth in order to get banks to give him loans. Banks, they testified to this at trial, do their own due diligence. They don't really care what you put on your application, just like they don't for you and I. They look at the project, they look at the properties, they assign their own value, and then they give loans based on that. Donald Trump took out the loans. Donald Trump paid the loans. Donald Trump revitalized parts of New York City because these are hotels. People go into town, they stay at the hotel, they shop at the surrounding businesses. The properties employ thousands of people. We're looking at like 20,000, 30,000 people that he employs in New York City. So she goes after him. He gets a judgment, 300 and some million plus $1 million in interest. He's up to 450 million. He's got to come up with 10%, either needs to pay the fine before he can appeal it, or he needs to get a bond where the bond costs you 10%. So he'd have to pay $40 million in order to appeal this judgment. And she's sitting there smirking, saying, oh, well, if he can't afford it, we'll just have to seize his assets. Folks, how the hell is that good for New York City? Can somebody explain that to me?
And how is that justice? Remember the campaign video when she said she was going to fight for everyone's equal rights under the law? Does that come across as a woman that is actually concerned about equal rights under the law, or is that just someone going after a political opponent? I don't know if she could spell it out any more clearly. And folks, if you've ever bought a home and you go to the bank and you say, I'm interested in this house, I need a loan. The bank doesn't just say, yep, tell us what the home is worth in your opinion, and we'll just write a check for you. Has anyone ever had that experience? No, the bank does its due diligence and they give you a number that they're comfortable loaning out. And hopefully that is the value of the house. But as we saw in recent years in the housing market, sometimes home prices were up here. The bank said, I don't think it's that high, so I will give you this amount. And that's how it works every single day.
And what I love is when he says, well, who's the victim? And she's like, oh, financial fraud's not a victimless crime. Okay, you still didn't answer the question.
Who's the victim?
Who's the victim? The banks testified these were good loans. We made money. We're happy. So explain to me who is the victim. Were the victim the 20,000, 30,000 people Trump's employing who are paying city tax and state tax on those earnings? Were the victims the people that enjoyed those properties and traveled to New York and then went and saw shows and ate at restaurants? Were the victims the restaurant owners that had extra people coming into their restaurant because this project went on?
And now, not only does Trump have to pay this as of right now if he loses the appeal, but he's not allowed to do business in the state of New York. And so you want to talk about victims of this crime that Letitia James is perpetrating right now. What happens to all of Donald Trump's employees when he is no longer allowed to do business in New York? Do they go on the welfare roll? Do they have to go out and find a new job? It seems like 20,000 people are wondering what's going to happen to me in the next couple of weeks.
Right. And I got to say, the chat is on fire today. Linda Smith, coming from a corrupt individual. Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us, Linda.
Thanks, Deb Morris. What a effing drama queen. True story. Fact check, true. Leslie weighing in. Snake Plissken coming to New York.
There's the reference. Leslie, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, we need Snake
More
Plissken
Kurt
to
Russell.
go save New York City. It's ridiculous.
And Bryant calling it like it is. The man did nothing wrong. That's you titleized or capitalized everything. That's a great title for the biography here coming up here. The man did nothing wrong as historians recount all of Donald Trump's 91 indictments.
Yeah, and here's what's an important thing to understand too. This isn't just about Trump, because if you're not part of the political machine and you got into politics and you worked your way up through all the corruption and taking the bribes, let's say you're a normal citizen like President Trump was, and you say, hey, I'm going to go into politics. I'm going to try to help save this country. This is the shot across the bow saying we're going to come after you. We're going to come after your business that had nothing to do with your politics, that did nothing wrong. It's insane. And here's the sad thing. You have to be rich to pursue a presidency. You can't do it if you don't have a decent sized war chest to get into the game. And so after Donald Trump, if we're looking for who's going to go in and fight the machine, this is designed to make them know, hey, we're not just going to go after you criminally for what you did as president. We're going to go to destroy you.
Yep. We've seen a couple of those shots across the bow now. So after January of 2021, Trump supporters, MAGA supporters, America First folks, guys better not organize and protest, because your buddies, they're still rotting in jail over there. So for regular folks like that, warning shots fired. And now, how many self-made billionaires are willing to put everything on the line, their reputation, their career, and then run for president of this country? I can think of one right now, and that's Donald Trump. But who's going to come up after Trump with all of this happening to say, I want to go through the exact same thing that he did?
Right. And if anybody's doubting how committed President Trump is to making America great again, he is a multi-billionaire. True Social just got approved for being purchased by a larger company. He stands to make $4.4 billion. He has a supermodel wife, like a legit supermodel wife. He has wonderful children, one of the most beautiful properties in Florida, private jets. And he knows he could have never gotten the political arena and lived out his life in a life everybody watching this show would say this is like a dream life. And he stepped in to this, to have Letitia freaking James trying to take his stuff and then sitting there going, maybe we'll just have to seize his property.
And I love Trump. I paused it here before Trump spoke, but no matter what they do to him, he doesn't seem phased at all. I don't know what conversations are like when the cameras aren't on, or he's back in Mar-a-Lago just talking through some of this nonsense, but he's on camera. He's got the same collected sense and presence in front of that camera that he always has. Trials, indictments, or none of it. He's out there doing his thing. He knows it's all a witch hunt and a sham. And so he will fight the fight, but he's going to be locked up and spending millions of dollars unnecessarily simply because he is a political target.
Yeah. Should we hear what Trump has to say about it?
Take a listen.
Against him would drive other businesses out of New York.
We'll appeal, we'll be successful, I think, because frankly, if we're not successful, New York State is gone.
But the state's attorney general told us she's not worried.
And last I checked, tourism is up and Wall Street is doing just fine.
Even with an impending...
Man, that smug look. All right, I think we got to get to, is New York doing fine? We've got a clip of Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary. He made his money before Shark Tank, but I think that's where a lot of people know him now, Jason. But he kind of summarized perfectly what that landscape might look like now that Donald Trump has been a target. Because, again, if it's Donald Trump doing it, then they're all doing it. Or if it's not, then everyone's just going to be worried about, did I say the wrong thing on social media? Did I donate to the wrong political candidate? Because now they might come after me too. But let's take a look at what O'Leary had to say.
It doesn't matter what the governor says. New York was already a loser state. Like California is a loser state. There are many loser states because of policy, high taxes, uncompetitive regulation. It was already on the top of the list of being a loser state. I would never invest in New York now, and I'm not the only person saying that. And here's a real-time situation. In development in real estate right now, the hottest asset class is very high-end data centers. They cost anywhere from $2.5 to $3.5 billion each. They're very expensive. They require low power. You need permits. But most of the major institutions in the world need more data centers, and that's why developers like me are doing this. Now, you need power. So New York has Niagara Falls. Normally, you'd consider that to put in one of these facilities, create 400 jobs, 5 more jobs for each of one of those for auxiliary services. I can't go to New York. So I'm going to Oklahoma, North Dakota, West Virginia. Governor Stitt, Kevin Stitt, my staff have met with him. Governor Bergen, the same thing. Governor Justice. Those are winner states. They don't do things like this. I have to syndicate that debt and all that equity. We're talking billions of dollars here. Do you think any foreign institution or any private equity firm or any pension fund would touch New York? No. And that's why New Yorkers should be concerned. The fine people of New York should ask themselves, why are we such a loser state? How are we going to attract business? It's not just the existing businesses that are fleeing out to Texas and Florida. What about new money like this that I'm talking about, like a $4 billion data center? Not a chance I would put that in New York. Zero probability. Never. And so they've got a lot of work to do to find themselves getting out of this situation. This has all occurred post-pandemic. Winner states versus loser states. Look at Tennessee right now, fastest growing city in America, Nashville. Winner state, good policy, competitive taxes. You've got to start thinking about this in the context of winners and losers.
I don't think it could have been better said. And let's frame up what's happening here, folks. So he's responding to Kathy Hochul after Letitia James went out and was like, "Oh yeah, we got him. We're gonna take his stuff." And the average citizen, even if you could sign on to the insurrection or any of that, they learned that Trump's getting pinged for some valuation on loan documents and they're taking his business from him. That's making normal people wake up. Well, these investors are looking like, I got $1 billion. I got to invest. I got to go build the property. So if I go build this in New York, can they do the same thing to me? And Kathy Hochul responded, and she flat out said that was what he was responding to first. Oh, nobody else needs to worry about this.
Could you say we're going after Trump any more clearly without just saying it? I don't think so.
Right.
And then I love this comment, Jason. Steven says, why doesn't he just say Democrats are all losers? I mean, point well taken. Did you hear every state he named? California, New York. I want to throw in Minnesota because we're in Minnesota and we are in a loser state as well. But no businessman worth his salt is going to look at the tax situation or now the political situation and say, that is a great, healthy environment for my investment of billions of dollars. They're all going to Florida, Texas, Tennessee. These are 0 state income taxes. These are conservative states that don't try to tell you how to run your business nearly to the same extent. It is so obvious. And Jason, I just wonder why more people, just regular folks, I know you watch CNN and MSNBC, but at some point, don't you just say, like, there's a correlation between where the states that are thriving and businesses are moving and the policies that they offer or the kind of leadership that they have to offer to these states? It just seems so obvious to us now that we're out of the matrix. And I just wonder, at what point do more people see that?
Well, yeah, and it's funny. So Minnesota, New York, a lot of these cities they named, these cities are already inhospitable for businesses. They're overregulated. It's a pain in the butt to get permits. You got to go bribe politicians in a legal way to get your stuff pushed through. Then once it does get pushed through, you're going to be charged higher taxes. And all of that, even if you were willing to eat the shit sandwich on all that stuff and say, yep, I still want to put my business in New York. Now you have to worry about if you fall on the wrong side of the political aisle that they're going to go after you. And it's funny because people were saying, you know, at the Trump stuff, oh, Trump broke the law with Georgia or with this, or January 6th was an insurrection. This business case, yeah, I can't stress enough. If all you did was you gave a different value than the bank did on your loan documents that the bank didn't even consider, no reasonable person could say this is valid. And so people are waking up, and now you'll see rich and powerful people say, screw New York.
Yeah, and those guys are awake enough. Maybe some of them vote Democrat. I don't know O'Leary's politics. I assume he's not a moron and votes Democrat every time, but these guys at least follow the money and they say, where am I going to get the most bang for my buck? Regular voters still, though, they look at that and they say, how do I sleep well at night? Well, Donald Trump supports Russia, or he's this and that compared to other historical figures. So I need to be a good person and vote for Democrat. Not all of them are feeling the pain of their voting yet. And Jason, you and I keep talking about that. I want New York to just suffer and fail miserably at this point. I think the voters, that's the only wake-up call. They are not going to watch Freedom from the Press podcast. They're not going to listen to Kevin O'Leary on Fox Business. I think they just need to be mugged by reality at this point. And that's going to be a tough lesson to learn, but I don't want to be dragged down with them anymore. I want them to feel it isolated in their New York City and their Los Angeles. Let them wake up, and then I will welcome them with open arms. I'm not going to say I told you so. I just want them to wake up and not ruin this country anymore.
Right. And folks, this is a key thing too. We need to let these cities feel the pain and live in what they're promulgating. And right now we've covered it in previous episodes, but the immigration crisis, as thank God Governor Abbott was sending a bunch of people to New York and Chicago and all that. New York just announced a 1.5 or 1.3 billion dollar illegal immigrant program where they hired a bank that is ill-equipped to handle it. So somebody at that bank's getting a kickback. They gave political contributions, or the story's going to come out for how they picked that bank.
He's friends with Eric Adams. We'll just say it right here.
Yeah, exactly. And the bank got a $53 million contract to run the debit card program for the illegal immigrants. And these illegal immigrants are getting up to $10,000 a month on their debit cards. Think of that. So you're a citizen of New York. You're a businessman in New York. They bring all these illegals in. They put them up in a hotel that the government pays for. The property guys, by the way, love it because they're guaranteed, and the city of New York's paying over, or state of New York's paying over market value. So if hotel rooms are 170, they're paying up to $300 a night for them. Guaranteed bookings of the rooms. They're getting 3 meals a day, once again, by companies that I'm sure have political connections. And now you're a business person and you want to look at this, folks, it's time to escape New York.
Yeah, and don't forget, I'm going to add too, it was a no-bid contract. Eric Adams didn't say, what's the best service that I can offer the people in my city? He just said, this is my friend. Here's the contract for you. Give the illegals all they want. And I don't have the clip here, Jason, but we just made a video. It's on some of our other Facebook pages. Marco Rubio goes on the Senate floor and points this out. So he's talking about Cubans in Miami, so in his state of Florida. If you've been a Cuban American, let's say you've been here for 50 years, you worked your entire life in Miami, you retired, you're on Social Security, you might be collecting $1,000 a month. Now, fast forward to today, if you're a 29-year-old Cuban immigrant, he says, you're now classified as a refugee. The government's giving you thousands of dollars because you are classified as a different kind of person in the system. And so in what world does it make sense that someone who's worked their entire life, gone to work, they did the grind, they're on this minimum Social Security, and now a brand new Cuban refugee comes across and he's getting thousands of dollars more per month than you because the Biden administration wants to hand over this country to all of the illegal immigrants? If that doesn't piss you off, I don't know what will. In what world should these people get to the front of the line and ahead of hardworking Americans?
Absolutely. Hey, shout out to Paul Reese, too. For those who don't know, Paul sponsored the show at Split Rock Coffee. He's one of the owners, disabled vet from Minnesota. A lot of experience in property development. He's currently working on a huge project. We're glad to have Split Rock Coffee. Go to splitrock.com. Hey, Todd, what promo code can they use?
Promo code Todd10. My parents are so thrilled with me, Jason. I'm a promo code. So they no longer worry about me. They say, our son made it in life. He has a promo code. So promo code Todd10 at splitrockcoffee.com, and subscribe today so you never have to go to the store again and worry about what coffee should I pick off the shelf. They'll send you your favorite roast right to your front door.
Oh, that's excellent. But now, so we've outlined the decay of New York, Todd.
So I think Root's going to segue us really nicely. And I love that name, Root Henry. I hope that's your real name. He says, glad the trucking industry is backing Trump and protesting taking to supplies New York. This is where we really want to head today, because this is where things could get really interesting. No supplies coming in. Uh-oh, now New York is running out of things, and society breaks down really fast without basic necessities.
Yeah, and let's just talk about that for a sec. If you're MAGA, if you're a conservative, You make this country run. You're the plumber, you pour the concrete, you haul the garbage, you drive the trucks, you're the plumber. You're the person who doesn't, all we want is an opportunity. We just want a fair shake. We're going to go earn our money. We don't need a student loan bailout. We don't need free money from the government. We just want a chance. And I hate to say it, but a lot of MAGA, we do the shit jobs so that these elites can sit there and these other people can sit there collecting free money. And when they did this to Trump, the response from the trucking community was amazing. I've seen stats. I don't know how valid they are, but I've heard that up to 90% of truck drivers and truck driving company owners are America First, MAGA, Trump supporting people. So Todd, we got to start plowing through some of these videos.
Here we go. Viewer discretion. This is our plug. There is some trucker language in there. We love our truckers. And honestly, at this point, if you're not cursing at the Biden administration, something's wrong with you too. But let's dive right into this.
Hey folks, your old pal Chicago Ray checking in. Just came out of this truck stop here, this Love's here in Illinois off 39. And talked to about 5 or 6 drivers. They ain't going. They ain't going to New York City. They're pissed. They're pissed like a lot of guys out here. So I tried to do a video with them. You know, I brought out my phone, tried to do a video with them. A couple of the guys recognized me, which, I mean, lately I guess I can understand that, but, you know, I fist bumped a couple guys, you know, gave some hugs, but they don't want to be identified. You know, they don't want to be identified on you know, with their faith, you know. I said I wouldn't. A couple guys just kept walking, you know, but the other guys just been with want what's going on with Trump and what's going on in this country stopped. So, you know, so there it is.
There it is.
Trucker Ray.
He was the first on Twitter, Jason.
What's that?
He's a great follow on Twitter.
He is. And I got to say, for those who aren't plugged into the trucker Twitter, trucker Twitter is amazing. These guys, and I got truckers in the family and extended family. They are a different breed. They are the breed. Like, I don't think there is a harder job than being a truck driver. I mean, there are, but it's a top 10 difficult job. You're on the road. You're eating crappy food. You're working crazy hours. You're hyper regulated. And you know what? You do it because you want to provide for your family. You want, you know, you like the freedom of the road. But yeah, Trucker Ray started the trucker boycott, and now it's happening. And oh, Todd, we got what else you got to say?
Here, we got one
Trucker
more
Ray?
Trucker Ray for you too.
Hey folks, your old pal Chicago Ray here. I sent out that tweet last night, you know, seeing what you guys thought about me going after Fox News for a retraction. Newsmax as well, Zero Hedge and a couple other motherfuckers, you know, misrepresenting what the fuck I said, because I ain't walk nothing back, you know. But okay, in your garage, in your refrigerator, you fucking little leftists better start motherfucking appreciate who the fuck we are.
All right, send your kids to the other room. Facebook, don't shut us down for that. But there is a lot of anger in here. Trucker Ray, because he's saying, okay, truckers aren't going to go. And then people immediately got after him. Oh, the truckers can't do that. That's not their freight. They only own the truck. So the left just immediately melted down. Fox News, he alluded to, wanted to get him on the show and kind of share his viewpoint there. And he's like, no, I'm just doing my job. I'm trucking right now, folks.
Yeah. So as this story drops now, you got to put in perspective, folks. So most truck drivers are MAGA. Most truck drivers have more work than they can take. I mean, if you're a truck driver, like people come to you, hey, can you take this load? Can you take that load? And I've seen stats that even if 10% of truckers stop delivering to New York City, it brings the city to a largely standstill. Now it'll be difficult because a lot of like big companies like Target, Walmart, those sorts of things, a lot of them employ their own truck drivers. So those guys will probably go through, but you're looking at all your bodegas, your restaurants, any of your small to medium sized business that rely, and a lot of big companies still do rely on trucking companies. I mean, even if you're at like the Dollar Tree, like they have a third party truck driver that brings their stuff to them a lot of times. So
Absolutely. And Jason, just to hit on that economic point a little bit more. So when you say just 10%, maybe not even that much, because it is so fine tuned now. They have enough data to say we need to send this precise amount of merch every week because this is what's going to move off the shelves. We can't put too much produce on the grocery store shelves, otherwise it rots and we lose that. So it's all very fine tuned. And as soon as you tinker with that just slightly, now you're in a shortage situation. And we all remember the toilet paper shortage. Once you notice that there's less and less, you start to panic and hoard. And so, again, it doesn't take all of the truckers to do this. It just takes a few just to make a statement, and then the system kind of unravels on its own from there.
yeah, and if we can go into retail lexicon, most retailers have developed a thing called just-in-time inventory. And what they've realized is back in the day, I started doing retail in the 90s. That's how old I am. You would have stores where you would have weeks and weeks and weeks worth of inventory in the back room. And that was kind of the model. And now what's happened with most of those retailers is it's almost kind of Amazon like, where it's just in time, where literally you ship, you have like 1, 2, 3 weeks tops worth of all this product, and you're ordering it and they're able to deliver it super fast, so you don't have months worth of inventory sitting there. So yeah, and Todd brought up the great example. The biggest lesson everybody learned in just in time inventory was toilet paper, because when COVID happened, I remember the day it happened. My wife and I went grocery shopping on like Tuesday, and the world went nuts on Thursday. And we're like, I was hearing about this Chinese virus, and we were thinking like, we should stock up on some supplies. So we grabbed some extra canned goods and different things. We didn't buy toilet paper. And then all of a sudden Thursday hit, and we're like, holy cow. I went to 12 stores and ended up finding it at the hardware store where I was able to buy a couple packs, but it was wiped out for like 30, 60 days. It was insane.
Absolutely. Jason, we have so many trucker videos.
Let's
Folks,
hear
let us know in the
truckers.
comments if you want to see more, but I'm putting more up right now until they tell us otherwise here. These guys are fantastic.
Hey guys, it's a beautiful day here in East Tennessee. February 21st, Wednesday. Still not going to New York City. Now, regardless what you liblickers think, this is a business decision. New York City is not trucker friendly. Not at all. And until you guys make it trucker friendly, why should we come? There's many of us out here that haven't been going to New York City for years. And we probably won't come to New York City until it becomes trucker friendly. Until you fix your tolls and lower them, until you fix your highways, until you fix the crime. I mean, you guys are protesting, shutting down bridges, leaving us in traffic for 10, 12 hours at a time, with the potential of our vehicles being vandalized. Who wants to be a part of that? I could be strolling across any other interstate in the country safely and delivering loads to people that appreciate it. So until New York City becomes trucker friendly, count me out. And
Man, if this video doesn't perfectly summarize the Democrat mentality here, they hate business, they hate small business and the middle class specifically, but notice the complete disregard for the trucking industry, even though, like we have already said, America relies on trucks. No trucks coming through to town, nothing delivered, panic sets in, chaos sets in. You need truckers, but the Democrat elites, they do not care about people like this. They only want to make sure they can line their pockets. You know what? Bumpy roads, expensive tolls, middle finger to the trucking class here. They just take it all for granted. So again, they vote typically Republican. These are America First patriots. They just want to provide for their family. And so they're pissed off. They're not stupid people. They see what the Democrats are doing in New York. And so they're just not going to do it anymore.
Well, he touched on a great point too with these protests. You get all these environmental protests or protests for Palestine or whatnot. So if you're a trucker, you pick up a load. He said he's from Tennessee and you're heading to New York. You say, hey, it's going to take X number of hours for me to get there. You don't have, and the government only lets you drive so many hours before you have to park and sleep and rest. Now you're a truck driver, so you get paid when the wheels are spinning, right? So you're going to say, okay, well, this trip should take me 7 hours. I can drive for whatever the number is, 12 hours. So then I can take this next load for 4, and you fill your clock. Those protesters stop that clock. And how many times have we seen where protesters block up New York, they block up San Francisco, all these crazy leftist cities, and there are zero consequences? Letitia James, who thinks she needs to shut down Trump Towers and put all those employees out of work, she isn't going to prosecute the prosecutors or the protesters that are stopping this trucker from getting into New York City.
Yeah,
God
great
love
point.
truckers.
I was just going to say, too, and it's not hypocrisy, it's a hierarchy. So, folks, don't ever say, like, oh, the double standard, the hypocrisy of Dems. No, it's all intentional. This is the hierarchy that they have in place. When the climate nuts go out and sit on a road, or these pro-Hamas folks march in the streets, those protests are okay. But God forbid the truckers say, we're going to protest something, too. Now, suddenly, they are public enemy number one in the eyes of the media and the Dems. Again, it's the hierarchy there. They despise you because you don't support them, and they're going to make your life miserable. But sure, if you support Hamas, or you support shutting down freeways because of climate change, and you don't realize that all these emissions from idling cars are making your supposed problem worse, none of that matters, because truckers, you can't protest because we don't support your agenda.
Right. Let's hear from more truckers. And folks, in the comment, give us a God bless truckers. I just love these videos.
All right. This one was on Twitter, and it even says in the caption, language warning. So, Jason, we've been warned.
We've been warned.
Hey, this is to all you window-licking fucking moron liberals. You don't know shit about the trucking industry. I'm an independent truck driver. There are 350,000 drivers like myself that if we don't want to go somewhere, we don't go there. We don't have any bosses, no unions. You can't fuck with our license like you guys keep saying you want to do. Nothing. It's not illegal to say, fuck you, eat a dick, you fucking...
All right, I think we get the idea of his language there, but great point. These guys are going to do their own thing, and 350,000. Again, the numbers that we're talking about are insane. And Jason, you hit a point earlier. We don't need all 350,000. We just need a small percentage of that.
Right. And I got to say, if you know truckers, and hey, we had our first trucker check-in.
Darwin, welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard, Darwin Miller. We love truckers, and thank you so much for listening to the program. But yeah, truck drivers, this is how they talk. This is how they think, where they're like we are just not gonna, they are like the last of the cowboys, where they are not gonna let government touch on them. And that's what's funny too. The lefties are kind of stuck because they have overregulated, and Darwin can let us know, they have made it so hard for truckers to make money. They've put so many inspections and regulations and tolls and checkpoints and all this. And so then naturally the liberals are like, well, let's just throw the illegals in there. But the fact of the matter is, like the illegals, you can't get a license, you can't get certification, and they've made it so onerous to become a truck driver. And that's why liberals don't do it, because it's hard.
Jason, I want to comment, but you talked about illegals here. This is a perfect segue to one more video, and then I will comment on what we just saw too.
Hell yeah, truckers. Don't deliver my damn thing.
Truckers, do you actually think you're irreplaceable? Like, this is capitalist America. You think that corporations are going to sit idly by while you boycott New York and affect their bottom line? No way. They will always find somebody else to do your job if you won't do it. Maybe even an immigrant. Oh no! So go ahead and protest. There's always somebody else waiting in the wings for your...
Okay, Todd, before we talk about this, I'm going to need some help from the audience and from you, Todd. How many cats does she own?
What's the over-under? 7.5?
I was going to say single, 7.5 cats. Who knows? Maybe 3-4 abortions.
I'm guessing this woman doesn't know a hard day's work in her life. Again, shout out to truckers, some of the hardest working people in America, backbone of the country, blue collar. You guys do the real deal. I don't think this woman has a single callus on her hand. She hasn't worked longer than maybe a 6-hour shift. I don't know what she does. She's probably collecting government money right now. So again, just the absurd situation here. And Jason, I want to go back to the previous video. Compare her to our truckers here. When I look at a trucker and I'm listening to these videos, that's a real man right there. Like, these guys are the real deal, and Dems hate masculinity more than anything. And so I don't think that's a complete disconnect why they hate the truckers too, because they want to get rid of masculinity in this country. And then you just turn around and you see some garbage like this. This is what they want the country to be full of.
Right. And it's fascinating because this woman is just like every Democrat. Yeah, Darwin's right. She has no idea what she's
Zero
talking
idea.
about.
Which, again, is par for the course for Democrats.
You know, and it's interesting, too, because notice how she went to let's throw the immigrants in the trucks.
Yep.
So these elite liberal snobs, they don't want to look at their kids and say, you know what? Trucking is a good profession. You should be proud to be a trucker. Let's take out a loan. Let's do debt forgiveness for a truck driver. Because if you've ever known somebody that's a truck driver, you're an independent contractor, you put a ton of money on the line to buy a rig. There's a lot of maintenance and upkeep. And those people don't get student loan forgiveness. This lady, if she has kids, she would never dare of letting her kids be a truck driver. But it's a dang good job. It's a dang hard job. All those liberal art majors that you see whining on social media, like, I can't find a job to pay my bills. Could any one of them be a truck driver, Todd?
Zero chance any of them could be a truck driver. They would actually look down on it too. More to your point, Jason. They look down on the vocational jobs. Oh, you're going to be a plumber? Oh, look at you. You're going to be a truck driver? Look at you. No. I got my gender studies degree and I'm going to go work for some giant tech company and change the world by censoring speech online.
Right. Oh, people like this they just make me mad.
It really fires you up. It goes back to the point too. Voting should be harder. I don't know what this lady contributes to society. I don't know if she's earned the right to vote in this country, to be honest, Jason. Like, what do you contribute, cat lady? I know every single trucker, you can have 2 votes. You can take one of hers away.
You know, maybe that's what we should. Most of them cannot read the signs. I love Darwin.
Darwin,
So they're lost.
thanks
They
for being
drive
here.
down.
God bless you, truckers. Yeah, I love this comment there. They're lost and they drive in rural areas.
Yeah. You know, it is funny too how regulated trucking is. I had an ex-brother-in-law that was a truck driver, and we're still friends with him. But it's funny, they got cameras in their trucks. And so every time, like, it films them all the time. Big Brother watches them, and every time they like hit the brakes, they like it activates where it like snaps pictures for X amount of time. And then, you know, truck drivers, I know they probably shouldn't, but a lot of them will like eat when they're driving. That's against some regulations or whatnot. But it's just kind of funny because they like they're on the road all the time, so they don't always have time to stop and a place to stop. But I saw some great pictures of him where it's like he had to hit the brakes and he's eating a sandwich, and then he gets back to the office. They're like, well, I guess you're getting written up for eating a sandwich.
All right, well, we have more videos, folks, but this lady was already in a video, says Linda, about a year or so ago, maybe drunk threatening someone's job. So human resource. Yeah, you talk about what real men do. They're out in the trucking industry. You talk about useless positions that feminism is just taken over in this effeminate ideology, like human resources. What is more wasteful and unproductive than HR? I had to deal with HR my whole life. I was a teacher and then I was an administrator in public schools. My God, you can't touch a teacher doing anything because they say my union, HR's got my back. Your hands are so tied. So it would make perfect sense if this useless clown is part of HR, because where else would she go?
We might need to go down the rabbit hole, find out how many cats and what she does for a living.
Yeah, brains to drive a truck, you name it. She just couldn't. All right, Jason, we got more truck videos.
Let's go to more truckers
here.
Yesterday, I make a video about New York truckers that are boycotting going into the city, going into parts of New York. And the video takes off and gets about 500,000 views. And I'm like, oh, that's it. That's not it. It keeps gaining momentum and gaining momentum. Take a look at this.
Trucker strike tomorrow, New York, good luck.
So now you got truckers all around New York sending in videos of empty truck stops.
Yeah, I think groceries are high now. You better respect some gangsters.
And so this was my point yesterday. It's not like that all of them have to stop.
Jason, I have eyeballs. I noticed that was a black trucker. I've been reliably told that conservatives don't like black people. So this is really weird for me because I don't know how to react to that now.
Right. My cat lady, if you told her there was a black truck driver, her mind would blow.
Uh-oh, I don't know what to do.
Right.
Or even 50%. Just a small fractional percentage of these guys say, hey, we're not going there, and that's going to affect everyone.
If you're in New York, you won't be receiving anything from these drivers.
And I'll just tell you right now, this thing has gained enough of momentum that if you're in New York, you're going to feel this. One way or another, I promise you, it's going to affect you. Which begs the next point, right? The next question, why don't they just do this in D.C.? Why don't they do it in Chicago, Baltimore, Pennsylvania? All of these blue cities that are so against Trump, why don't the truckers just shut them down? Just stop going there. Just stop hauling, right? And you're in the heart of these culture wars. You cannot deny that we're not in the heart of these culture wars. Take a look at Bud Light, take a look at Target, take a look at Nike, take a look at Disney online. You know, these downloads are down, 4 million subscribers? Here's a culture war quick reminder right here. Anheuser-Busch plunged 25.9% during the weekend of July 29th. You see where we're going with this? And before you say it'll never work, worked in France with those farmers, didn't it?
Oh, Jason, I don't know how many people know about the protests in Europe because our media doesn't cover any of that. The Netherlands, France, so many of these European countries, Germany had a big one. All the farmers are protesting these climate laws that says you can no longer raise your cattle, you can no longer plant your crops because of climate change. We're going to seize your assets now. Folks, let us know in the comments. Have you heard about any of these protests in Europe where the farmers drive in their tractors, they spray manure at the politicians? Great clips on social media if you're tuned into Twitter. Typically, I don't know if I've seen a lot on Facebook, but that the working class is pissed off, not just in America, but around the world.
Well, and it's funny you say that. Once again, the theme of this podcast, freedom from the press, part of our mission at the American Tribune and on our podcast and our content is to show you content that they're not going to show you. And I guarantee Cat Lady has no idea about farmer protests in Europe. And these are bad. I mean, these are farmers driving tractors into the Capitol, shutting down the Capitol, spraying manure everywhere. It's wild. But you know what? If there was I guarantee, though, everybody saw the 4 white nationalists that were at some event in the middle of nowhere last weekend. You know, you can get 1,000 farmers in downtown Paris throwing shit on the Capitol, protesting. You get 4 white supremacists and it's on every news feed everywhere. It's insane.
Yeah, and I think I have our show lined up for next week. I was just thinking, how many people know about El Salvador's president or Argentina's new president right now? I mean, these two individuals in the South America are doing fantastic things, cleaning up crime, balancing their budget. So Bukele took his murder rate capital of the world down to like less than America now. Milei in Argentina balanced the government budget in 2 months because he slashed all these useless government offices. How many people know about that? I think we might have to deep dive into what actually helps in politics, Jason, next week by highlighting these guys.
Geopolitics. I love that. Yeah, because there's some exciting stories out there, folks, where just so what a populist movement is, it's power to the people, and not like the lefties say where it's like, give us more free stuff, we want socialism, but people that really want freedom and just really want a safe environment to raise their families. That's taken on over the world, and once again, that's why they hate Trump.
Absolutely, because he is willing to be the voice and take all the bullets for us to try to make that happen. But
Right.
Jason, I gotta guess all these truckers don't want to have to think about protesting New York. These guys didn't get into the trucking business to think, how am I going to fight the fight or fight the man or fight the regime? They wanted to do a job that fulfilled them, help provide for their families, clock in, clock out, spend time at home or spend time on the road, whatever it may be. The last thing these guys got into when they were signed to be a trucker was to be part of a culture war movement where they're now on the front lines of Twitter and social media and saying, I'm not going to bring shipments in because New York's gone to hell. We don't want to be part of this fight. We want to be left alone. But these truckers are like that. We'll have to bring up the poem too. The man that just wanted to be left alone. Like, they don't want to be part of it. And you also don't want them part of it, because once you wake up the sleeping giant, you're going to really regret it.
Oh yeah. And it's fascinating because by nature, conservatives, we just want government out of our lives. You know what? Protect our borders, enforce the laws, leave us alone. Don't overtax us. Any of those sorts of things. And we just want to go help build this country, be kind to our neighbors, be valuable to our communities. And these lefties just don't understand it. They think, hey, we need to control your life. We need to regulate what you say. I mean, somebody's going to report the video with the guy swearing. I guarantee it. And
they have
we're going to
nothing
get
better to do. They're triggered by it. Oh no, someone, if Ocasio-Cortez or Biden got caught swearing, they'd be like, that's fine. But
right.
nope, God forbid it's a trucker to do it. Jason, permission to read The Men Who Wanted to Be Left Alone for a second.
Oh, Todd, let's go educational.
The most terrifying force of death comes from the hands of men who wanted to be left alone. They try so very hard to mind their own business and provide for themselves and those they love. They resist every impulse to fight back, knowing the forced and permanent change of life that will come from it. They know that the moment they fight back, their lives as they have lived them are over. The moment the men who wanted to be left alone are forced to fight back, it is a form of suicide. They are literally killing off who they used to be, which is why, when forced to take up violence, these men who wanted to be left alone fight with unholy vengeance against those who murdered their former lives. They fight with raw hate and a drive that cannot be fathomed by those who are merely play acting at politics and terror. True terror will arrive at these people's door, and they will cry, scream, and beg for mercy, but it will fall upon the deaf ears of the men who just wanted to be left alone.
Yeah, it's funny. One of my favorite movies is Braveheart. And if you haven't seen it, I would encourage you to go watch it. But yeah, Mel Gibson, he's just hanging out, raising his family on the farm, and they brought the war to him, and then he raised hell. And that's what is happening in this nation, folks. We're seeing a great awakening. We're seeing people realize that the corruption, it's a class warfare. It's not left versus right. We say this a lot on the podcast. It's the elites versus the everyday Americans. Now, they fire up the left and the right and get us to fight each other so that we get distracted from the fact that the political class and the rich and powerful are the ones who are screwing over this country. They're enriching themselves. Cat Lady probably has a job that supports the regime. She's a diversity thing. She is so she's like, I will support the people of power, no different than being a maid or a butler or working in their kitchens. But she thinks they're going to leave her alone. And I'm here to tell you, folks, just because they're going after America First, Patriots First, doesn't mean they're stopping there.
The left will always eat their own. The movement doesn't care about you. You are the useless idiot that Stalin talked about. You think you're fighting the fight today and the regime will never turn on you. That's not how it works. And if you're a Democrat that votes Democrat your entire life and you live in Chicago or New York City, how is that working out for you? Like, they are turning on you. Now it's the violent thug criminals. Now it's the illegal aliens. It's all of these other people that get preferential treatment over you, and they do not care what happens to you. You were a pawn that was used to get them into power, and now they will return services and favors to someone else that they will try to win over next. And so, Cat Lady, today might be your day, but eventually either your voting rights will have consequences, and then the crime will turn on you, or the party that you thought supported you will just turn their back altogether. So it never ends well for these folks.
Yeah, it's funny when you talk about that. So I got the Thomas Massey debt clock, which is plugged into the government system to say what our national debt is. $34.257 trillion, folks. So this week, my wife and I found out, or a couple weeks ago, that we're having a grandchild. That grandchild is going to be born owing $250,000 day one. It's absolutely ridiculous.
And that's best case scenario, Jason.
That is best case scenario.
More likely, folks, something awful is going to happen with our economy. It might be next week. It could be in 50 years. Nobody knows when it will happen, but everybody knows that it will happen at some point.
Absolutely.
All right, Jason. Well, with that, we are hitting the hour here. Final shout out for the show to truckers. Thank you guys so much for keeping the country humming. No one thanks you. No one sees what you do. But without your work, this country comes to a standstill really fast. And here's hoping New York City feels that.
Yeah. And I got to say, folks, I just want to give a shout out to our audience. We started this podcast a few months ago, a couple of crazy guys from Minnesota that are ranting against the regime. We love getting comments and notes. Follow us. Todd and I are both on Twitter. We've got our website, The American Tribune, and the Substack, theamericantribune.news. And we both gave up our corporate jobs to help fight the regime, to create content, to educate people between our various websites. We're hoping we're achieving that for you. But if there's ever a story you think we need to hear about, if there's ever something you'd like us to cover on a podcast or on our written articles, let us know. Will just on theamericantribune.news. He just did an interview with a guy from South Africa to give an update to a story we ran a couple months ago talking about what's going on down there. I guarantee you haven't heard what's going on in South Africa. No American media is covering it. It's awful. And we can't even put it on our regular website, theamericantribune.com. We have to put it on kind of our private website, theamericantribune.news, because no advertisers would ever let us cover that story. But that's why we do this, is so that we can help educate America on what's going on. And yeah, shout out to truckers like you guys. You guys make the world go around. But hey, Todd, final thoughts before we get out of here for the week?
Final thoughts, folks. Great to have you with us again. And we are here every Friday. I know it sounds like a beg. It is really just an ask because we're trying to wake up as many people as possible. Share this content with folks in your orbit that may not consume either conservative news or news that is outside of the matrix altogether. We're just trying to bring truth to you. It doesn't have a bias, although inherently, if you are inclined towards truth, right now that seems to align best with conservative values. But share this with someone that voted for Joe Biden in 2020 because they didn't like the mean tweets and they didn't like Orange Man bad, and they believe the psyops and the propaganda is perpetrated against that great president. We'd really like to change some minds and invite them to watch with you. Share this content with them. That does us a huge solid, but it also wakes some other people up too.
Absolutely. Hey, with that, folks, be safe. Last note from me, go to church this weekend. You'll thank me later.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week.